Hi, everybody. My name is Roseanne Moreno, and I am the Transfer Student Success and HIP Pathways Lead for the SASE department. SASE stands for Student Academic Success and Equity Initiatives. I am joined here by three PEEP mentors. PEEP stands for Peer Education and Equity Programs. And the hope of today is to hear a bit about their stories and get a little bit of an understanding of their experience transferring to a four-year institution. So with that, I'm going to ask our first question, and is to please share your name and major at Channel Islands. So I will start with Kaylee.
All right, I'm Kaylee Chang. I'm a psychology major, and I graduated officially last week. So,
Yay. Okay, Mikey.
Hi everyone. So my name is Miguel Arana, but I prefer to go by Mikey. And was a double major in Chicano studies and psychology, and I graduated as well.
Ashleigh.
Okay, so my name is Ashleigh Elizabeth Secor. You can call me Ashleigh or Ash. And my major was health science, and I graduated last week as well.
Okay, so our second question is, tell us a little bit about your family and how you ended up at Channel Islands, and specifically, what was your thought process for either staying close to or going away from home? So Kaylee?
all right, so I'm the oldest of two daughters. So I'm the first one with my sister and I to go to college. My mom went to college too, but she's pretty unique. She is the only person in her family to go to college because she came from Mexico, like Michoacan, Mexico, which is not like very populated. She really came from the very rural parts of Mexico. She grew up with 13 siblings in a like one-room adobe house. There was nothing there, no electricity. So she came from nowhere. And so she would tell me stories all the time growing up about how she would run away from her chores in the mornings. They would wake up like at 5 a.m. and start tending the fields. And her dad would get really mad because she'd go to school. Where she's from, school is non-compulsory after like a certain age. And so she would keep going. But she did really well on those days that she would run away from her chores and her farm work. And so she got a scholarship actually after a combination of a lot of really crazy things. And she got to come here to the United States when she was 16 by herself to come study. And so she would tell me about how it was really hard because she was in foster care for a while because she didn't have any family here and she didn't know any English. So by the time she graduated and she got the scholarship to go to college at CSU Fresno, she'd have to choose between buying food and buying textbooks. And she'd always choose textbooks because she only had so much money and she had to prioritize what she came here to do. And so she would juggle so many jobs just to make $200 stretch the month. And so she's always encouraged me and my sister to go to college because education would be our freedom like it was for her. And so that's something that we definitely kept with us. And behind going away for college was that if I was going to pick psychology to be my major, and so I was like, if I don't have anything specifically in mind, I can do this anywhere. So I chose to leave to go to college, specifically down south, because my sister and I had plans for a long time that she would dance in Los Angeles because she likes dancing. So we'd both go down south. And I used to tell her, we'll go down south and I'll go to college and you'll go to college and you can dance on the weekends in Los Angeles. So that was the plan. And so I found myself there first at CSU Channel Islands. It was a really great decision. It wasn't really about leaving home as it was about going somewhere where there would be more opportunities for us because we're both from Central California. But there's not a lot for a very diverse opportunity. So that's why I came down south to Southern California. And it's been a really great choice.
So a little bit about my family. So I'm the oldest of two. So my little sister, she's getting ready to transfer as well. She hasn't decided where, but she was admitted into like 8 schools. So she's like trying to decide where she wants to go. I was the first to go to college. I was also the first to graduate, so my parents didn't graduate from high school. So my mom immigrated from Yucatan when she was like about 6 years old, and she grew up in Santa Ana, California. So she was born and raised there, and then my dad immigrated from Yucatan as well. He immigrated when he was 17, so his senior year, instead of graduating, he decided to immigrate. So he immigrated when he was 17, and my parents had known each other from the same town. And when my dad immigrated, they were able to connect again. So it was kind of cool that they connected again when they were here and got married, had us, and decided to stay in Thousand Oaks. So yeah, so I'm a first generation college student, but also a first generation high school graduate. And then I decided to stay local. I knew I wanted to stay close to home. There was like some family stuff going on at the time that like going away, like I would feel guilty if I went away, even though like parents always say like, you know, like we want what's best for you. Like it's okay if you have to go away. Like don't worry about it. But me myself, like I would have felt guilty if I like had left during that time. So I decided to stay. And then also like another factor was if I was gonna commute, then it was an excuse to buy a car. So I was like, I want to get so it was cool. So I decided to get a car, and then I was also able to stay home, which was a huge benefit. I was able to stay at home for like a lot of things. And there was like a few downsides, but also plus sides to staying at home. So like one of the downsides was you're home for like all the stuff that happens. So like if you need to be with family, like that's your first priority. If I had this huge research paper and like, for instance, like last December during finals week, one of my mom's sister passed away. So my tia passed away. In that moment, like although finals were like going on and stuff, like I needed to be there for my mom. You're there for like all those stuff, things like that happen. It was good. I was able to balance it. I was able to graduate, thankfully. But for me, staying local was like the best choice that I made. And my sister's thing and her decision, I'm telling her, do whatever you got to do. That's for me, that was what staying local did for me.
Ashleigh?
Okay, so a little bit about my family. I'm the youngest of four. There's a huge age gap in between my siblings and I. The oldest age gap is like 20 years. So basically, yeah, my parents, I'm first generation. My parents didn't go to college. Neither did my siblings. My sister, she's a nurse and she's always been like a huge inspiration to me. All my siblings have, but she's been the one who went back to school. So she's like somebody that I always like look to. So the reason I chose it was between either here or Bakersfield, which is about like 2 hours away, and that would have been with my sister. So I technically would have never left family. But I think what really kind of motivated me was the fact that Channel Islands was not only close to home, but it also had a really good program as well for nursing. And that's what I had intended to go for. But I think really, I just wanted to go to a smaller school. I've always been to small schools. Like my high school that I went to was about like 500 people, 500, 600 people. Like it was really small. So I saw too that Channel Islands had a ratio of like 20 students to one teacher. And I was like, okay, like I need one-on-one sessions. Like I'm not somebody that can sit in like a huge seminar and just kind of be in the back because I know myself. And I'm like, no, I need to be able to talk to people, be up front, whatever it is. That's like what influenced me to go there. But similar to Mikey, it was really hard, especially like when you're home or like when tragedy strikes. For me, when my brother passed away, it was October of last year. So, you're there for all of it. You're there for the good, bad, and the ugly. So it's hard to kind of like balance it. And I think too, coming from like a Mexican family, like it's always like your mom that's like, oh, like don't go. So my mom was like, oh, like don't go. But if you have to go, go. But at the same time, like you do feel a little bit of guilt. I don't want to leave my family completely because I still need them just as much as they need me. And then on top of it too, like my sister had moved back with us. So there's about 7 people living in one home, which is a little crazy. But I mean, again, I don't regret any of it. Like it's hard to balance it, I think. Like it's really hard to balance family life and school life. But I think the biggest part of it was the fact that we're able to see like a different type of beauty in our community. Being from Oxnard, you're like, okay, yeah, it's by the beach. There's this stuff, there's that stuff. Like you do kind of see it. But I think, going to school in a different area, in the same area, but in different city has really shown me like, you know what, I can make an impact in the city. Like there's just so much going on. Like there's so much culture here in Ventura County that I think having gone to school there, it just shows you like, wow, like look at all these beautiful people, all like, the beautiful beaches, nature, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think what really influenced me is like the small sizes, and that I knew I wasn't ready to move away. I know myself, and I'm like, no, if I move, like I'd be nervous, I'd be kind of scared. So yeah, that's partially what what kind of influenced me too.
So our next question is, what was your experience like when you transferred? Did something stand out for you that maybe you were not prepared for? Or were there major differences that you noticed from your community college to Channel Islands? So Kaylee?
Oh, this is interesting because this is a confessional story. Channel Islands was not my first choice school. Well, not first choice, but the how I came to choose Channel Islands specifically was an interesting story. First of all, I had never visited this campus. I had only ever heard secondhand stories about this campus before I applied. What ended up happening was that I applied for colleges my third time around. But my third time around, when I applied for colleges, I applied just to CSUs because I really wanted to embrace that common application, so easy, whatever. So I applied to Fresno, the nearby CSU. I applied to Fullerton, Long Beach. I can't remember a couple others. And at the very last second, I was about to hit submit. I was like, you know what? I've heard good things about Channel Islands. I heard small too. So let's throw that in there as well. So I did. I threw it in there last minute, and then 2 seconds later, I hit submit. So by the time a couple months pass, I get my rejections and my wait lists and whatever, and then I get one clear blank acceptance, and it's Channel Islands. And I was like, you know what? This must be a sign. Let's go there. I had never visited Channel Islands in my entire life. The first time I ever set foot on Channel Islands briefly was for orientation, which I was late to because 2 separate cars exploded on the freeway. Anyways, I know. Whole separate story. So my actual first time ever really looking around the campus was when I moved in, a day later than everyone else, into the dorms. And so I remember my mom dropping me off and we're unloading my stuff. And she goes, okay, we're going to leave you to settle down and unpack, and we'll all cry in the car as we leave you with your life here. Before we go, let's all get dinner. So they drop me off and then we get back to the car to get dinner. And then we kind of really start looking around. And one of the very first things that we noticed was like, wow, where are all of the people of color? I remember looking out and there is a huge line of girls in line for Starbucks, and they're all wearing high-low skirts. Where are all the diversity that I'm very used to? Because where I'm from, most people in my high school were Mexican, or we had people who were Muslim, or people who were exchange students. And then when they left, and then I really got to see the community, there were other things too, not even just racial or ethnic disparities. There was also little cultural stuff too that I wasn't used to because I came from an agricultural, little small town feeling kind of place. One thing was that traffic here was weird. Maybe you guys don't notice it if you're local, but traffic here is very dense and crowded and fast. Where I'm from, traffic is wide lanes that stretch on forever. Commuting is every day for me. People say, you commuted 30 minutes to your community college every day? And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty short commute. People really ask me how I can stand to go visit my family every 3 weeks or so because it's 4 hours. And I'm like, that's not too bad. I'm like, anything under 5 hours isn't too bad. Commuting is just every day here. And as opposed to where Channel Islands is, it's not. Traffic is, everything's faster. So that was something, and everything's crowded. That was something to get used to. Faster and crowded and loud. And again, there's other small things. There's just all kinds of little things that you're not prepared for when you go somewhere new. And these are things I would have expected if I went even just next door to Oregon or to Utah or to Nevada. But then people don't really think about how big California is just by itself. I mean, just the northern and central and southern parts of it. Really, California is 3 states in one. So just going down south, I was like, wow, there are some really big cultural differences here. Even just with how they eat their fries. I was shaken. But I did learn a lot.
So Mikey?
For me, I think in my experience transferring, because it was kind of local, I feel in going to community college at Moore Park, my counselor there, her brother works at Channel Islands. So I was like, all right, there's someone that I know. Got kind of got rid of that uneasiness. And then I also got involved with the SSS program at Channel Islands, and they had a whole 3-day orientation. And I was super nervous about transferring and all this stuff. But this 3-day orientation was before the fall semester started. And it really helped make me feel a lot more connected to the campus because the first day was just a tour of everything and all the resources that we had. And then the second day was actually meeting people from the school. So it was even more connections that I had and resources that I could go to. And then I felt I had community when I was there, whereas Moore Park College when I was, it was just commute, go to campus, leave. And then at Channel Islands, I really felt connected to the campus, even more so as I worked for Peeps and stuff. That was a huge family. As courses in upper division, coursework got even harder, having that community really helped me do better in school because my parents didn't graduate. They understand school and they help me in like the ways that they understand. When it comes to like doing a research paper or something, I don't know, some stressor from school and I'm like trying to vent about it, they'll just do it. Yeah, like get it over with. They don't understand like the full thing. So having peers and community and faculty that understand that, you're like, yeah, that's stressful. I understand that your family also might not understand that that's stressful. Like I understand the experience of being like a first generation student. For me, that was like really impactful. I think I was talking about with to Kaylee about this. Upper division coursework just felt like a little bit like turned up from like community college. Community college really prepared me to like thrive in upper division coursework, I felt like, but it was like turned up nonetheless. So the level of writing and the level of reading was like expected that I would be at that level, and like professors weren't gonna wait for me to get to that level. I had already had to be at that level, and if I wasn't, then to go seek the resources to be at that level. So that was just like my experience. I feel like the first semester, like it was kind of rocky, getting used to reading 4 books for maybe like one course, and then like having to put those books in conversation, getting used to some professors, like they might want like a 2-page paper like every single week, and getting in the habit of writing those papers. So like the first semester was just learning the ropes, and then after that I felt like I was able to adjust. And then whenever I would get stressed or something, just having a community that I could go to. Even though I commuted, I still connection to the campus, and that was like super important in my success as like a transfer student.
You had mentioned the SSS program. Would you mind elaborating a little bit on what that is, what it stands for, and how you got involved with that, just in case we have other transfer students who are interested?
Yeah, of course. At Moorpark College, I was really involved with the EOPS program, which is the Expanded Opportunity Programs and Services. And it's basically this program that helps students. There's a little bit of financial support, so they help you pay. They give you a stipend to pay for your books. There's also counselors, and there was also like workshops and stuff to help provide you with like professional development. And that was really helpful for me at Moorpark. So I really tried to look for a similar program at Channel Islands when I transferred, so I knew I could be in good hands. Channel Islands, unfortunately, you can't apply to their EOP program as a transfer student, but they have the SSS program, which is similar. It's housed in the same department as EOPS, in the same building, I mean. So a lot of the students from EOP and SSS kind of connect and like meet each other. SSS, the only difference from EOP that there wasn't that financial stipend of helping you with their books, but there was that academic support that I needed above all, like when it came to transferring, like, because that was a huge reason that I transferred, was because of the EOPS program. So I knew I needed something similar at Channel Islands, and finding the SSS program and like applying for it, and that was something that also really helped me as well to succeed at Channel Islands. And I forget what it stands for. I think it stands for Student Success Services.
Ashleigh?
Okay, so my transferring process, it was pretty straightforward for the most part. I mean, again, I was like super nervous as well. Like I was so scared because I was like, you know, even though you're in a smaller university per se, it's still like a new environment. I've toured it before, but it's so different when you're actually like at school with other people who you don't know. So I think what really kind of did it for me was my orientation. They were talking about like, I just knew I wanted to get involved somehow, some way. Like I was like, okay, like at community college too, similar to what Mikey said, you know, you go to school, you go to work, you go home, whatever. You don't stay. It's kind of just like you come and you go. But I knew like at a university, I wanted to stay and I wanted to kind of like build that sense of community. So for me, my first year was really scary. I'm not going to lie. Like my first semester, there was mention, I remember like my orientation, there was mention of like, you know, 349 class at the time, which was like a class for transfers. And I was like, oh my God, like I got to get into this. Unfortunately, it was like all full. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll take another class. So I took an empowering first generation student class, which was like really awesome and super helpful. The professor at the time was Carrie Moss, who was an EOP counselor and just super great. She made the transition, even for me, like she just really made that transition a little bit smoother and easier. And it really helped to have like that sense of like community with other first generation students, because you're like, hey, you know what I'm going through. Even though like some of them are freshmen, it's like, okay, you know what I'm going through. I know what you're going through. But yeah, I think the scariest part was I took a 400 level class, and I was like, just like what Mikey and Kaylee were talking about, like it was just so turned up, and you are prepared for it, but it's crazy how much the professors expect of you, which, you know, it's expected, but at the same time, like when it's thrown at you, you're like, what do I do? So yeah, it was just crazy, like how much reading, like Mikey had mentioned, like the amount of reading you had to do, the amount of writing. And the test, I remember my professor was like, okay, I want citations in Chicago. And I'm like, I've only ever used MLA and APA. What on earth is Chicago? But yeah, so I was like, how am I going to learn Chicago? Like, I had no idea what Chicago was or even how to use it. But it was expected that I know. And they were like, if you don't know, look it up. That's basically all it was. So I was like, okay, easy enough. So then I think the other part of it too was just kind of learning how to take what you learned and then put it onto paper basically. So like they expected you to kind of take this subject over here, that subject here, and then you talk about how they relate and how, like, you use like a lot of interdisciplinary learning, which was crazy to me because when I first went to Channel Islands, like I had no idea what interdisciplinary meant. In itself confused me, but after a while, like I fully understand it. But yeah, I think the hardest part was just kind of getting used to that, which you do after like a week or so. You're kind of like, okay, I'm fine. I think too, what really helped me my second semester was a 349 class, and I had a mentor. So she was great. Like I learned all the resources because it's so scary. Like when you go to a school, I think it's so important that you know what's available to you. But it's not the same like when someone says, oh, go to the Learning Resource Center, go tutoring. You're like, okay, well, who's there? Like, who are these people? When I had a mentor, like she actually took us and she's like, okay, this is a resource. Here are the people that work there. And you're like, oh my God, like these people are actually really nice, like, and they're students, which really took the edge off of it. And I think it made it a lot easier. And then after that, I decided I want to go into the PEEPS program, which changed my life. I call it my home away from home. Like just being involved in something on the campus was amazing. Because you're like, oh my gosh, I think Mikey said it too. Like, like you're writing a paper and your parents are like, oh, just do it. Like my mom was like, okay, just get it over with, Ashleigh. And I'm like, do you know how long it takes to do all this research, put it into words, like, and I'd be like at Starbucks, I think for like 6 hours straight some days. And my mom was like, oh, just come home when you're done. And I'm like, Mom, it takes like 2 days. And like, it doesn't take just a couple hours. So I think that part was kind of a little bit different, but it was really helpful to have, someone to talk to, like, or text, like I would text like my peeps, like, oh my God, you guys, like, this is crazy. Like, what are y'all doing? And like, we talk about like how we're doing. And I think also a big part of it too was reflecting back. Like that's what the PEEP program helped me do. Because a lot of it was, okay, like for me, a lot of it was, okay, I'm here, I transferred. That's great. And I knew that's what I had to do. But when I was in the PEEP program, it's all about like reflection and like really kind of seeing where you came from. And I think that's what really changed my perspective. Like, oh my God, look at what I did. Look at where I was at, what I'm dealing with, and look at where I am now. And I think that was like a huge part of it. And I'm so thankful for the whole process in the school as well. But yeah, I think really getting involved is super, super essential and important to do.
So our last question is, now that you're done with college, so all three graduated last week, were you happy in your decision to stay close or move away from home? And for the two of you who stayed local, do you feel like you still had that college going experience? So we'll start with Kaylee.
So I probably should have addressed this in the last question. I was so focused on the cultural aspects. I'll address the transition a little bit here too. So the difference between leaving home for university and staying local, which is pretty obvious, but it didn't really hit me what the impact about leaving until I was actually here or actually there. Once my family had driven off and I was in my dorm with people I had never met before, 5 girls all with one tiny dorm room, all strangers. It was just me by myself. So maybe some students don't experience this if they go somewhere where there's friends or whatnot, but I went somewhere completely new where I had no friends, no family, no connections. None of the buildings were familiar because I'd never even visited the campus. Definitely visit your campus first before you go and move in to stay for a year. But everything was unfamiliar because I had, again, no connections. So it was really just me on my own for the first semester. I feel like all students experience isolation on a new campus, even students who maybe have been there for a year or so, and even if they are local. But I feel like I felt a lot that first semester because I had no familiarity at all with this new environment, and my family was about 4 hours away. So I visited them a lot that first semester, like every other week or so. So I spent a lot on gas money. And like Ashleigh said, there's always your mom who's like, I'll pay for your gas. Or if you come, I'll throw your laundry in the wash for you. So definitely that kept me coming home more often than I probably should have, again, because it's like 4 hours. I was driving like 8 hours a week. but I started getting involved. And that was a really great decision I made because I've done so much in 2 years. I've been to Maui and I got to go look at humpback whales and go swimming in coral reefs with the department that wasn't even my own, the environmental science department. So much fun. I led clubs. I was a president of psychology club this past year. A great experience. I met new people. I learned new things I never would have learned if I had stayed home because I had gone to college even before just community college. I've been taking college classes since I was 15 or so. I was doing community college and high school at the same time. So in some ways, I was prepared for the workload because I had experience doing a lot of work all at once. But I wasn't prepared for doing something new without support, or at least initially. For that first semester, I had no support. So it was really hard. But the more I branched out, the more people I met, the easier and easier life just became, even when I took on more things to do. But by this last semester, I was leading clubs. I was working on so many different research projects. I had my finals. I had internships lined up. I had so much to do. It was so fun. I learned a lot of amazing things I never would have learned if I had just gone home every day, spent so much of my time driving because I commute everywhere where I'm from, and kind of just lived in a little bubble, which isn't bad because I feel like there's merits to staying local too, because there are some things I missed out on. There are milestones I couldn't be there for. Like I couldn't be there for my sister's commencement if it had taken place because, virtual. I couldn't have been there for my sister's commencement because it was the day before mine. And I missed birthdays and recitals, and there were certain events I couldn't be there for, family emergencies, and that was a trade-off. I can't even imagine how it is for students who go even farther than I went, 4 hours away. So I was always really conscious of that. Sometimes I would get phone calls or FaceTimes from my sister and my cousin. And there were certain events I wish I could be there for, but I couldn't because I made the conscious choice to leave. But I don't regret it because I feel like there are certain things I learned at Channel Islands by leaving that I couldn't have learned anywhere else, or that I couldn't have learned just by leaving home. In some ways, because it was so hard and I did it all on my own, I learned that I could do it anywhere. I'm not afraid of leaving if I have to now because I know that I can do it and that it's going to be hard transitioning because wherever you go, it's going to be hard when it's new, especially if you don't know the people or the place. But I did it, so I know that I could do it again if I had to. And I probably one day I will. So I know that I'm independent and I know that it's going to get better even if it is hard. I think it was completely a worthwhile experience, and I don't regret it. I would do it again.
Mikey?
Yeah, now that it's all over, I think I definitely made the right choice. I might get emotional. But I don't know, I just feel like the community, the networks that I built, the connection to the campus, I don't know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I feel staying local, I was able to experience what it's like to give back to the community that's around me. So through service learning projects or even just working through PEEPS, being a mentor at Oxnard College. Oxnard's a local city, and I was able to give back to students that are just like me or come from backgrounds just like me. So I was able to give back to a community that's super local. And I feel like if I would have gone off, I don't know if I would have gone this community because at Channel Island, Ashleigh was saying it's one of at most 30, maybe, and even in Chicano studies, maybe even less than that, one of 15 sometimes as you get further into upper division courses. And it was really a private school experience, but at a public institution. The professors really cared for you and they really wanted to see you succeed, and they gave you all these opportunities. For instance, the PEEP department came about learning about this position through a faculty mentor that he emailed me and he's like, I think this position would work really well for you. You should go for it. I wouldn't trade those experiences, the opportunities I was presented with, whether it was research or internships. And it was really because of that network and community that I felt comfortable. Even doing research with a professor, it was super simple. I know I've had other friends that I had to apply, I had to put in a cover letter, there was a little interview that I had to do just to be a research assistant. And I remember the first time I wanted to do independent research, I just went up super informal to my professor and was like, hey, do you have any projects you're working on that I can help you out with next semester for credit? And it was super It was, yeah, that was it. It was just super quick the way that things were done, and I feel like professional development as well. Like I don't regret it, and like I think I did get like that college experience of going away. There was a lot of friends that I made. There was days that I would spend at school just being there the entire day in the library, doing homework or like, in the peep space, like doing like work. And yeah, I think I definitely did get that college experience. Like there's a lot of friends that I made I know will be lifetime friends, and we would hang out like outside of school too, not just at school. So it's an experience that I don't think I would trade for anything, and I don't regret it at all.
Ashleigh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret any decision. I don't regret staying home and going to college. Like, even though it is for me only like 20 minutes away, but just it's really interesting how it works. When you go in, you just enter like this whole new world, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in Camarillo, but it doesn't feel like that. And I think I got the best of both worlds. So I was able to like see my family, and then I have like nieces and nephews. So I was able to see them grow up and spend time with them. But I was also able to also, I think similar to what Mikey said, is like spend 12-hour days at school. I mean, I didn't live on campus, which is totally different, I'm sure, than, living at home. But I think just having the surrounding, you're constantly in one place, I think is really different. And like I had mentioned earlier too, like also just seeing the beauty in the community. Or there's this group called Viva Oxnard. I've never heard of it until I went to Channel Islands, and I was like, oh, what the heck? This is awesome. And it just makes you want to really give back. And it's awesome to like see all these groups that are in Oxnard or like in the county doing all this great work, and you're just, what can I do? And I think going to Channel Islands motivates us to give back to our communities. Channel Islands is like such a great community within itself, with all like the diverse people, and just everyone's so nicer. And I can't stress that enough. Like I always say that, like everyone's so nice, but literally everyone there is like so nice. Mikey and Kaylee had mentioned too, the professors are awesome. They're not going to turn you down. Like you have a question, even though some come off tough, it's for the better. When you have a question, they'll answer it for you. If you want to go to office hours, like it's not intimidating because their door is always open. They have like a really awesome open door policy. I remember a professor of mine, when I was taking a political science class for one of my electives, she was, oh, hey, like I have this research opportunity if you want to do it. And I was like, okay, I thought about it, but it was just really awesome because they ask you, they're like, hey, you're a good candidate, or like you can ask them, and it's like, you don't feel awkward or weird. It's scary, but it's not, they're not going to be like, oh no, they're not going to tell you no. They're going to say, oh, you know what, there's this other opportunity or something like that. But yeah, I think it's just really amazing having gone to CI. I feel like now I have a voice. Before, like, not that I was ever really timid, but I'd always, well, yeah, actually scratch that I would always like be scared to raise my hand in class, and I was like, oh my God, like I don't want to sound stupid. But I was like, you know what, forget that. Like, no, I'm going to ask a question. If I sound stupid, whatever. And the worst thing I could do is not ask a question. And that's one thing I always tell people, you have a question, ask it. Don't be ashamed, if you don't know the answer. So I think, having done that at CI, like starting out small, and being able to do that in small classes has really empowered me, and I always say too, like if there's an opportunity at that school, at CI, like, take it. I think every opportunity I've ever taken at CI has led me to where I'm at, led me to like all these great things. I was interim president of Transfers Making an Impact. And I think that's like the power that CI gives. It's like it's just, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it's a really empowering community with really empowering people. And I think everyone's just, we all have a common goal of just bettering ourselves and bettering our communities, which I think is so essential. And you just really see it. If you don't see it now, you will see it eventually. Like you just see where you were when you started. And then I was timid, I was shy. And then now I'm like, oh my God, like ask me anything. Like I'm an open book, come talk to me. But it's really great to see that. And I'm so thankful for CI. It just really showed me the person that I always wanted myself to be. Like my mom said, it's like you broke out of your shell. She mentioned to me too, like having the PEEPS program has also really helped me become more of who I wanted to show the world, if that makes any sense. But because of that, I am who I am now, which is awesome.
I think that concludes it for us. I appreciate the three of you coming in and talking to us a little bit about your story and your experiences. I think it definitely helps to hear what it was like for you all.